Hey, I'm Adam Thompson. I'm a consultant in strategy, organisational design and leadership, and today we're going to talk about one of the most unfashionable things that's likely to be causing a lot of problems in your organisation. Let's get into it. As I've also done recently, today we're going to lean on the viable system model by Stafford Beard.
We shan't see the model again, so let's take a quick rehearsal of it.
Now, by the way, if you want to read more about this model, you've got the original text, or my go-to book is this one here, The Fractal Organisation by Patrick Hoverstadt. Easy to read, explains the concepts, brilliant. So here's how it works. I'm going to run through the 5 systems and why system 2, fashionable name, is probably the one that's causing you the most problem. Viable system, a system that's able to maintain a separate existence. An existence in what? The environment. So what we're going to do is going to draw it up like this. There's my big E for the environment. So every system, this goes from a human body to the whole organisation, has its primary activities that it's doing, and we represent those by, we'll call those operations, O, and then we also have a management function which has various functions that it's going to do. So we're going to call that M. So what we've got is the environment, operations and management. First we have system 1. System 1 is made up of the primary activities that we do. Now when we're doing structure work, we make certain choices on how we're going to divide up system 1. That's for another time. But for now what we have is these functions here, which are system 1. So we've got the primary activities. These activities are now required to be coordinated so they don't bang into each other when they're doing their stuff, which is system 2, coordination. System 2, make sure these don't bang into each other. Now what we have is system 3, which is about the management of how all these shows fit together, allocating resources and the like. And if the environment never changed, that's all we'd ever need. However, in the real world, we're also going to have a changing environment, which is why in order to be viable, we need to have development, which is system 4, and development occurs through knowledge and interaction with the environment, as you can see there. Finally, all of this exists for some sort of purpose, which is system 5, which I like to draw as a little house at the top there. So 5 systems, if we have all 5 systems working, we have ourselves a viable organisation. And to get this working, we need information flows between all the systems to make sure that things work. Now, the VSM has uses in 2 ways, one of which is diagnosing where issues might be, and the second one is actually designing your organisation using these principles so it's going to work. And when we look at organisations, the one that's often going to be suffering the most is the one that is the least fashionable, and that is coordination. Think about the pain in your organisation, think about the hassles, think about the things that bubble up to the surface for you, and it's likely to be how things work together. When you hear the word silo said yet again in your organisation, all those other sort of words, we are usually talking about a problem of coordination. And why doesn't this become apparent? Because we are used to thinking that the idea of coordination is something that occurs towards the front of the organisation, that towards the top of the organisation, it surely must be something different.
What are you cooking? I tell you what I like to eat, swan.
But it's actually not, because the beauty of the viable system model is this applies to a whole organisation. Then the same 5 systems are necessary to have in any given department, any given team, even inside a human body, all these 5 systems are present. So if we're pressed for time and we can't do a full diagnosis, it's often wise to focus straight on the coordination. Now the great example Stafford Beard uses for coordination is the school timetable. Imagine if all the classes went about doing their own thing, all these primary activities without actually talking to each other. You'd end up in a situation of overbooking, people not being able to arrive at classes, and the purpose of the system, which is educated kids, just wouldn't happen. So by using a school timetable, we're actually able to coordinate all these primary activities so the purpose of the system can happen. Think about how else the school timetable works. The school timetable is not about accountability. That comes through the management line here, through the resource bargain. Instead, it's actually considered to be a service to everyone involved because it allows them to coordinate the primary activities without undue hassle. It's rigid enough that in a normal situation, things are supposed to work that way, but it's also flexible enough such that if an emergency teacher is required or something else needs to change, it can be changed. And here's the kicker. If you don't have coordination devices in place, whatever your organisational equivalents are of school timetables, the issues that pop out of these primary activities are going to float up here to management. And if you feel like all I'm doing is putting out fires all day or all I'm doing is sorting things out, then it's likely that we have an issue in terms of our coordination. What do we need to do? We need to make it clear that coordination is the problem. Even if it's coordination between whole hundreds of people, divisions in the organisation, it's still about coordination. We need to work out what the primary activities are, make sure that we're organised in a way that makes sense. But in the end, put in coordination devices that don't rely on accountability, but are simply seen as a sensible way to make workflow better between areas. What that actually looks like is going to be specific to each situation, but what we don't want to be doing is holding ourselves back with the illusion that the problem is something about purpose or development or even management. But what we really need to focus on is the very unfashionable word of coordination to make our show actually work together as one. That's all for now. See you next time.
nach Scarborough Fair. Peter so sauber ist und Post und Timingen, ja. Küssen Sie mir von jemandes gewohnen dahin. Sie war einmal meine...
Kookaburra.